Welcome to the weekly outlook. Boone here from EWPRO. Getting into the weekly outlook, starting with the DXY. Last week we were looking for that USD weakness, and we did get that. But looking at the daily on the DXY, we got that 5 down. Looking at A, B, C, wave C broke the top of the internal B wave over here. So then we were looking for the sell, possibly go down, break this low, and possibly get down to this weekly 100 fib down here. So we're looking for the shorts. This may also turn into a larger daily correction in here for an A, B, C in here, and then give us another one up. But at this stage, looking at the lower time frames, we have that bearish divergence. So we're looking for sells. Looking at the H4, so we got that A, B, C after the 5 up, and then we got another one up here giving us all that bearish divergence. We had that nice bear flag in here, like I said last week. We're looking for that sell. On the H1, the first target was hit. So we were looking at that 100 fib for the first target and your 161.8 for the second target. The second target still hadn't been hit. Why this trend line here holds, like I said last week, look for the sells. While this trend line here holds, you can look for sells. It's getting a bit too far now to look for the sells on the H1. We've got this bullish divergence. So it's starting to get risky. We may get a larger correction in here. I still think there's more downside in it, but we may get a larger correction before we get like an A, B, C. So you have to be sort of a bit careful now, looking for the sell until we get that larger correction. AU on the daily. So nothing's really changed. We're looking for that WXY, wave Y bounce, clean off that 161.8, and now we're looking for that X2. More than likely, we will get bear hidden here. We don't have it yet, and it's only a guess at this stage, but I dare say we will get bear hidden before we get another one down. But more than likely, you get an A, a B, and then a C in X2, and before we get the Z down. On the H4, we got that Z down on the H4. Now we just have one up. It's broken up above this. We've got a higher high here. So you can only look for buys. You really want to wait for the H4 correction. You want to wait for the H4 correction before you look for the buy now, pretty much. On the H1, we had the trade last week, same as the others. We were looking for that 100 fib and the 161.8. So we hit that first target at the 100 fib and didn't quite get to the second target at the 161.8, but this will be coming to an end. Again, why this trend line here holds on the H1, you can look for that the X2 and then the Z up. You really need to wait for that X2 before you can look for the Z up. We got internal bearish divergence, so this wave Y is coming to an end. EU on the daily. So this has played out nice. We've got that A, B, C. Wave C broke the low of the internal B wave in here. So that was great. And we got this nice impulse up. So we are looking for this to go and break the top, like this top over here, unless it gives some sort of a larger correction in here. But at this stage, we can only look that this wave C is over and we're going up to break that top at this stage. On the H4, we got the higher high. We already had that last week with the bullish divergence. And yeah, we've actually broken above this top here now. Only just broken above it, but we've broken above it. So again, you know, you can wait for a H4 correction wherever it starts. Like this may not be over, but wherever you get that H4 correction, you can look for the buy after that H4 correction. You really need a H4 correction now if you're looking for the longer term daily trade to go and break the top, because you don't want to be buying at a top. On the H1, we're looking for, well, both the targets were hit. The first target was this one here at the 100 fib, and then the 161.8. Both were hit. So we look at it, WX, we're looking at wave C or wave Y. We got a wave Y. So we're looking for an X2 before we get a Z up. So if I quickly just put that on there. We've got a trend line here, trend line here. So again, you really need to wait for the H1 correction if you're going to trade that Z up. And you're looking for the 123.6 and the 161.8 as your targets for that Z up. And then, like I said, more than likely get the larger H4 correction before we get more upside. So this week, you really have to wait for that H1 correction, X2, before you can look for that to trade that Z up. Looking at the GU on the daily, like I said, last few weeks, you know, we got that A, B, C, wave C, broke the low of wave A. Like I said last week, we got that really deep correction in here. It still can be the end of wave C, and I am looking at it as the end of wave C, and we go up and break the top. But yeah, like I've been saying, I don't like this deep correction here. If we go down to the H4, like I said, you know, this B wave can go and break that low, and it'll still be a B wave. But it won't go and break the top. It'll just C up and then go and break the low down here. For an A, B, C, because this is so deep. You can't look at it as impulsive when we get such a deep correction like this. So we're just looking for that 100 fib. On the H4, we're looking for that 100 fib first target. On the H1, we were looking at these targets here, the 100 fib and the 161.8. 161.8 hadn't been hit yet. It's pretty much the same as all the others. Why this trend line here holds. You sort of want to wait. We have bearish divergence on this one. But yeah, it's gone way past the 100 fib. So it's still possible that we do get like an X2 in here before we get a Z up. And you really need to wait for that now. You really need to wait for that correction to be safe in the trade. And this may not be over here. But yeah, very dangerous to be trading. You really need to wait for that X2 because we have this bearish divergence. You need something to buy. You need a correction before you can buy. If you're looking for the sell, well, you need a bearish setup, and you can take a sell because we do have that bearish divergence. If you get a nice sell setup, you can look for it. But yeah, it's a little bit tricky at the moment because we've already got that wave Y up. You've already, your trade was in here last week. We had that nice flag. That was your trade to buy. And that's over. NU on the daily playing out beautiful, like I said last week. We got that A, B, C bouncing clean off that 100 fib. We got a higher high now. So we're only looking for the buys. This one gave nice buy setup as well. Still hasn't hit the targets. Well, it hit the first target, 100 fib, and we're looking for that 161.8 for the second target. I dare say it still will get there. H4, all we have is a higher high. So, wait. You can either wait for the H4 correction, the larger correction, back to the 50 fib. Wherever this ends, this may not be over, like I said, but if this is the end here, you'd be looking for the H4 correction back down to the 50 fib, and then look for your buy setup for A, B, C, or even go and break the top of the H4, the daily, break the top of the daily top. So H1, again, we have bearish divergence on this one as well. The targets were hit. Last week we had this, so you would have got a nice trade. There's quite a few nice trades. This was one of the better ones. Gave a nice flag. Got a nice flag in here. You got another one here, another one in here. Up to your first target. Now again, you really need that X2 before you can look for a buy. You definitely don't want to be buying up here. You don't want to be scalping up here, little flats and that up here, because we've already got the bearish divergence. It's too dangerous. You really need to wait for that X2, and if you do get an X2, well, then you can look for that buy for the Z up. But if you get a sell setup, a break of the trend line and a sell setup, look for the sell. UY on the daily, this one's a little bit difficult. It's become quite difficult because we're looking at A, B, C. Instead, we're getting all this now. Like I've been saying for the last couple of weeks, it's not really playing out. Like I said last week, we've got 1, 2, 3. I was looking for 1, 2, 3, and then possibly 5 down as a complex correction. This one still hasn't played out. Sort of looking for this down in here. Instead, we got another one up in here. So the structure has sort of changed in the B wave. It's still a B wave, and we can see that it's a B wave because it's so choppy. So we're still looking for this down in here though, before we get this over here. So we're looking for a larger, larger sort of, but still looking for the same structure. So if you get a little bearish flag in here, you can look for the sell just down to this point. It's like I said last week, we're only scalping this. There's only scalps in this because we're in a large correction. You can only scalp this. There's no real clear direction. So we'll be looking for a sell, and then if you get a buy set up in here, you know, look for that buy up to the 100 fib. But the start of the week, like you got a little bearish flag in here, very difficult to trade. But now we're starting to get a break of the low here. Any flag you get, you can look for that sell, and just be careful. You know, it's only really scalping. The Swissy on the daily, this is a little bit confusing as well. It's not really playing nicely. We want that A, B, C up. We're still looking for that C to finish off this B wave. We got a nice breakout, but then we're getting this. You know, this is corrective in here. If we look on the H4, looking for that A completion of the B wave, and then the C up. You can see here, like we had this down here last week. And I said, if you get a little bearish flag, you can look to sell it, but just as a scalp, the same as UY. It's only scalping. We're only scalping on this. So we never really, you know, this is contracting flat in here. And even this here is a contracting flat because we never broke this low. This wave here never broke that low. So that's why I said, if you do get a bearish flag, you can look to take it and just get it to break even and scalp it. But we didn't even get the bearish flag. Instead, it's giving a larger sort of correction in here. So you can sort of look at it as A, B, C in here, and then you get A, B, C. You know, it's very messy. I'm only really looking for buys because whatever's happening in here, it's corrective for upside. So we really want to see a buy setup. If you get any buy setup, ideally we go and break this low first, and then we get the buy set up, and then we can all look for that buy until we sort of break this low over here. It's risky to buy because this can turn into a much larger structure in here, corrective structure before we do get that impulse up. Looking at the UCAD on the daily, so we got the trend line break. Like I said last week, we can look at this as an A, B, C in here for some sort of a running or expanding flat before we get more upside. We are looking for that retracement on the weekly back to the 55th before possibly more downside. Last week we were looking for that sell. I said it was pretty risky because we had that bull hidden, and we still have that bull hidden in play. So I said, you know, you can look for the sell, but it's only really a scalp until this low here gets broken, and then, you know, you can look for even more downside once that's low is broken over here. But at this stage, we still have that bull hidden. So, you know, if you do get a buy set up on this, break of the trend line and a buy setup, well, you can look to take that buy and break that top. So a buy would be nice. I still think that, you know, there is more upside. This doesn't look complete. This doesn't it still looks upside. This still looks corrective for upside. So I think looking for the buy is a good idea. We did bounce off that 100 fib on the weekly, you know. On the H1, we had that flag in here. Like I said, you know, you can look for that. That would have taken you out. More than likely, if you took this, you got break even or took a hit. It turned into a larger correction in here, which was quite difficult to trade. I was watching this. I was looking for this one to go up and break that top and then look for a sell. It did give a little flag in here for a sell, but it never broke that top, so I left it alone. And I said it, you know, last week, you know, it's only scalping the short here, and to be careful. So yeah, we'll just have to wait and see what we get in here. If you do get a little bearish flag in here, you can look to sell it, because more than likely, if we get a little flag in here, it will go and break that low for the bear bull hidden, and it will take out that bull hidden. So, you know, but it's only going to be a scalp as well, because, you know, we will start to get bullish divergence. So it will only be a scalp, but yeah, I'll be more interested in the buy for the larger, you know, if we get that larger C up on the daily. GY on the daily. This is very similar to GU. We've got that WXY. We're looking for a correction similar size to this, and we got that. We got that similar size correction right here. We got a nice move up, but like GY, we got this deep correction in here, which is not a good thing, because after the wave X, we really want that impulse up and then the bullish flag or correction, and then we aim for these targets, 123.6 and the 161.8. like I said back over here, you know, we're looking for these targets. Those targets still haven't been hit. On the H4, we still have the possible bear hidden. Like I said last week, we were looking for the buy last week, but we've got that bear hidden, so we can't rule out WXY, X2, and then a Z down to finish off the wave C before we go. Can't rule out that lower low here just yet. On the H1, well, the first target was hit at that 100 fib, and you can see it's just staying at that 100 fib here now. So it's still looking a little bit bullish in. So this wave C may not be over, but if you get a sell set up in here, break of the trend line, a sell set up, look for that sell, for that bear hidden to go and break this low. That's what I really hope we do get that lower low on the H4. So then we can really get a nice entry down to this 100 fib here. If we get down to around this 100 fib, we'll get really nice risk reward for the buy, a longer term buy. But at this stage, you don't really want to be buying. We have this bearish divergence. That's a problem. So it's hard to buy these. I think in here last week, we were looking for that buy in here. But yeah, it's risky to be buying up here. You can look for the buys while this trend line here holds, but they're only scalps. You can't really hold them for longer term. Looking at the EG on the daily, we got the 5 down, we got WXY, X2, and then that Z down. We're really looking for a 50 fib retrace of this move here. So we're looking for that 50 fib retrace somewhere around here somewhere. Like I said last week, this is looking nice on the H4. This is looking like an A, B, C. You can't really put this H4 correction. We've got to cross down on the MACD. So you don't really want to put a buy stop above here because you're going to have a reasonably large stop loss. You can, but yeah, safer way is to go down onto the lower time frames. So looking at the H1, we were looking for that X2 and then a Z, but this one never broke the top for that wave Z. But then if we look at it here as a contracting flat, it did go up and break that top for wave Z. And we can look at it like that, as the wave Z up, but then we'll be looking for the larger correction in here. So this is either like on the H4, like I was saying, an A, B, C before we get more upside, and we just get the wave Y up, and this isn't a wave Z. Sort of not looking at as the wave Z because we do have like this flat in here. So we got some sort of an A, B, C up in here for a large correction. And this is very choppy. This is very choppy. So I'm looking at that as a B wave. So we get an A, B, C before we get more upside. It's giving sell setups at the moment. Just be careful with the sells though. If you're looking for the sell, just be careful. They're only really scalps. Ideally, we get this one down as a flat in here on the H4 as expanding or running, and then we get, so price action comes down here, we get a bullish setup. You don't want to miss this bullish setup. This is what we'll be looking for. I'm not really interested in the sell. I'm more interested in this buy. If we get a nice buy setup, I'll be looking for the buy. EY on the daily. Like I said last week, we still got this bull hidden. It's not valid to trade as bull hidden, but even when they're not valid to trade, usually they still give the deep correction back to the 90 fib if they don't go and break that top, or to the 78.6. You get that deep correction, and we're looking for a correction a similar size to this, and that hasn't completed yet. So it's still not out of the question that we get like 3 up here and then another one down for some sort of an A, B, C before we get more upside. Looking at the H4, so we got the C down. We got A, B, C. It didn't hit our 100 fib, but it broke the low. It even broke the low of the internal B wave, which is nice. We got all this bullish divergence, like I said. We've got a higher high. We've broken this top now, which is nice. So we can only really look for the buy. Safest way again, wait for the H4 correction and then look for the buy setup. Looking at the H1, pretty similar to all the others. This was a couple of weeks ago, this buy in here. This is the one that you wanted to get on for this. Now it's starting to get risky looking for the buys because we have all the bearish divergence. So it's starting to get risky looking for the buy. You really need to wait for that H4 correction and then look for your buy. So you might be sitting on the sidelines for a week or two, but it's better to be sitting on the sidelines conserving your capital than to be trading something that's not tradable. This is, I mean, if you get a little sell set up, you can look for a scalp, but they're only scalps. So yeah, I'll be waiting for that H4 correction, and then I'll be looking for the buy. Might take a couple of weeks. Looking at gold on the daily, this hasn't changed. We never broke. We had that bear hidden here. We're looking for that to go and break the low. It never broke that low. This here never broke that low. So when that didn't break that low, we were looking at A, B, C in here for an A, B, C as a flat, a larger flat, before we get more downside. So we get some sort of A, B, C, and that will line up with the weekly, because we're looking at a weekly time factor in here. So we're looking at this as just a C up. I'm looking at this as just a C up, and then more downside on the daily. On the H4, a few weeks ago, we were looking at this. This is the one you didn't want to miss. It didn't really go. It only went Friday week ago. It only sort of went, and then you got this another bullish flag, so you could look for the buys. We're only looking for the buys up to this 100 fib. On the H1, we're looking for this target here. This has turned more complex. It's still bullish. Like, this is still very much bullish. Like I said last week, you know, why this trend line here holds, you can look for the buys. But yeah, it's starting to get bearish divergence like the others. It's very risky. We're starting to get that bearish divergence on the H1. So it's starting to get risky to look for the buys. Get a little flag in here. You can look for the scalp, but you know, just be very careful, because this can end at any time. Like on this daily, you know, the end of wave C, we don't know where the end of wave C will end. It may end right here as a contracting flat. We don't know yet. Ideally, we get a regular flat up to the 100 fib, and then, you know, get downside. Ideally, that's the structure we really want to see. But sometimes we get these contracting flats. So yeah, at this stage, the buys are looking dangerous now, you know, with that bearish divergence in play. Looking at WTI, this one here, like I said last week, not much has changed. We're looking at that. We were looking for that A, B, C. It bounced off the 100 fib over here. So if this was the A, B, C, it should have went from here. It never did. So now, like I said last week, we're looking at A, B, C up in here before we get that A, B, C as a larger correction. So this A, B, C is wrong. This is more like the end here. I was looking at that as a B wave because it was so choppy, you know, and it still may be, but we're getting a larger structure in here, so I'll remove them. On the H4, we got that WXY, bear hidden in X2, and we're looking for that low to be broken. That low was broken over here, giving us that bullish divergence. But like I said at the time, we had that A, B, C in here. So we got that 3 down. So like I said, this is more than likely not a wave Z. It's just a WXY, A, B, C as a larger correction, running flat before we get another A, B, C. you can see that we're right at this trend line here now as well. So, you know, we can fall over from here. So we were looking for these buys in here. You got another larger correction in here for the buy. Now we have bearish divergence. So again, very risky looking for the buy now. It's more of it looking for the sells. And you don't really want to miss the sell if we get a sell on this. WTI is a big mover. When it moves, it does move. We got an A, B, C in here, like on the lower time frames. This in here was very deep. So it may just be an A, B, C, and then go up for another one. We already have the bearish divergence. So if you do take it, you can really only buy it above this top. If you do take it, it's only really going to be a scalp because we already have the bearish divergence. I'll be more interested in getting a trend line break below this trend line here and break through this trend line here, get a little bearish flag in here. Be a perfect sell opportunity. And that's sort of what I'll be looking for this week. If I get a sell set up, I'll be looking for the sell. Bitcoin on the daily, nothing's changed on the daily. We have this possible bear hidden, and that still is valid to trade as bear hidden. On the H4, I'll put that idea out. Like I said, last weekly outlook, I'll put that idea out over here for it. I was looking for that X2 on the H4 if I just zoom out. So we're looking for that W, X, Y, A, B, C in here. So you get that A, B, C in wave Y. And then I was looking for that X2. That's failed. It's gone back up above this as the structure I was looking for at that time. So I can remove all this. We had that bear hidden, so this was the second target down here. It's still got this trend line here now. Got all, like I said last week, you know, we had all this bearish divergence last week. You know, that's why I was looking for this X2. Now we've gone and broken the top. We've got even more bearish divergence. So I'm not looking for buys. You know, very risky looking for the buys. And if you are looking for the buys, they're only going to be scalps. So on the H1, I mean, this was your buy in here. Again, this is very deep. Didn't break the low, but it's very deep. So more than likely, it's just an A, B, C in here. There's no bearish divergence on the H1. So this may not be over. And you are sort of getting, well, this is a little bit too sharp, but it may be some sort of a flat in here, like you get a little bit more downside, and then you can only buy above that top low. You know, unless you, on the lower time frames, get the C down, impulse up, and a little bullish flag in here, well, then you can get a better entry, but you know, it's starting to be risky. I'll be more interested in the sell on Bitcoin for that daily, looking for that daily bearish hidden divergence. You know, very risky buying up here. SPX on the daily, breaking all-time highs again. We're just about up to this 100 fib. It's getting very close to this 100 fib here on the daily. We've got all this bearish divergence. On the H4, we're looking for that C up. It's hit the 100 pip now. So we got that A, B, C. It's right at that 100 pip now. And that was the first target. So on the H1, got all this bearish divergence on the H1. This may be a larger correction in here as some sort of a flat for an A, B, C. Very risky to trade. You can put a buy stop just above this top here. Use this as your stop loss if you get triggered. Use this as your stop loss just under here. Just for that A, B, C. Very risky. It's not something I would look to trade. I was actually looking for the sells. I did take a couple of nice sells on this, but they just turned into break even because, you know, got into the sell and it come back, take me out at break even. Get into the sell and it come down, take me out at break even, you know. So I did get a couple of break even sells on this last week. It hasn't fallen over yet. I'm only really looking for sells. We're breaking all-time highs. It has to correct eventually, and I don't want to miss the downside. The downside's going to be a lot larger impulse than what we're going to get to the upside. So yeah, there's not much you can really do. I mean, more than likely this will go and break that top. Then we can draw this trend line. And then, you know, if any bearish setup I get, you know, I'm going to be looking for that sell. AU 200 on the daily. Daily, we're getting all that bearish divergence like I've been saying for ages. Still holding this trend line here. It's looking very bearish up here. You know, this is looking bearish up in here. On the H4, we got that C up. We're looking at this A, B, C. We got the C up. And all this is looking very corrective. Like I said last week, this didn't look complete in here. So I was looking for this. Last week, I was looking at this here as the B wave. So we get an A, B, C. Then we get that A, B, C. I said, you know, it doesn't look complete because we had this here. This was very choppy. So I was looking at an A, B, C. Then we get that A, B, C. Wait for that top to be broken, a trend line break, and then a bearish setup to sell. Well, this all played out nice. We got a nice break, but we never got the sell set up. So I was a bit disappointed. I was watching this one for that sell, and it never gave me the sell. So that's trading. Now it's looking like, you know, a larger correction for an A, B, C. It's still looking bullish for another one up. It's not looking complete again. But we are getting a little bearish setup in here. It's not something I can trade. I can't trade that. We got a high here. You know, I can't look for that. This is too sharp to be a B wave. So for an A, B, C in here as a expanding flat for another one down. It's just the price action isn't there. It's not showing it on the price action as a B wave. This isn't showing as a B wave. It's very sharp. So this is sharp, this is sharp, this is sharp. Then we got a sharp one here. So this is looking corrective in here. So it may just give a B wave in here and then an A, B, C, A, B, C, and then fall over for the larger structure before we fall down. I'm just going to watch the structure. I am only looking for sells. I mean, I'm only, whatever's happening in here. Whatever's happening in here. This low hasn't been broken. So all this is corrective. Whatever it's doing in here, it's corrective. So I'm only really looking for the sells for an A, B, C. At least an A, B, C, or it may even fall over big time and the market crashes. We don't know, but I'm only looking for the sell. This is looking very corrective. If I get any nice sell set up on it, I'll look for the sell. Looking at the DAX on the daily. Like I said last week, this is still looking very bullish up here. We're not quite at that 100 pip. We're getting very close to that 100 pip, but it's not at that 100 pip. This trend line is still holding just. We have heaps of bearish divergence, so you don't really want to be looking for the buys. We're looking for the sells. On the daily, we're looking for the sells. On the H4, we're looking for that. We had that flag in here, but we're looking at that A, B, C, and then a C up. So we're still in this flat in here. So we still get that A, B, C, and then you can look for that buy. On the H1, it's very choppy, very difficult to trade. This is similar to the AU200. We sort of got that. We got that A, B, C, and then a nice impulse down, but it never gave us that bearish setup to trade. So this was very difficult to trade again. Like, you couldn't have even really taken this one, you know, because you got an impulse, then correction. So we get impulse, correction, impulse, correction, impulse, correction, impulse. This can be very choppy. You know, it's going to be very difficult to trade. You really need a nice setup, nice sell setup to sell it. Ideally, we get this B wave, H4, C up, and then we get a nice sell setup. Ideally. The FTSE on the daily. This one hasn't played out nicely at all because we're looking at A, B, C. We never got nowhere near that 100 fib. We've broken the top. We got a heap of bearish divergence. Not looking for the buys, you know. Definitely not looking for the buys on the daily. We want to be looking for the sells. H4, we got that nice impulse up. This was rather impulsive down here too, back down to the 38.2 on the 50 fib. This is our B. Well, we're looking for that B wave. And we can look at this as the B wave now, because we can see that it's so choppy. So we can start looking for that A, B, C, and then A, B, C for more upside. And then we definitely want to be, if we get this C up, we definitely want to be looking for a sell setup for a longer term sell, something we can hold for a long time, and hopefully we get a market crash, you know. On the H1, not much is happening. Like I said last week, we had this in here. Like I said, we had this in here as well. So we got an A, B, C. But like I said, we didn't get a breakout of here. Instead, we got this flag in here or correction in here before it went. So I said it's very risky to trade and it'll only be scalping. And yeah, so if you stayed out of it, it's probably a good idea. But now we may be getting a sell set up in here. if you get the sell set up, look for that sell down to the 100 fib, A, B, C. At least down to that 100 fib, and then, you know, move it to break even or take half off and just hold the rest. So that's it for this week. I hope you really enjoyed the weekly outlook. Subscribe, hit the thumbs up, show your appreciation for the work that's been done, and enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you out there next week.